Let's talk about something you probably never even think about, but that is constantly shaping your world. We are surrounded by tech that is quietly cleaning, sorting, and clarifying everything around us. And at the heart of it all is one super simple but powerful idea: the filter. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how this works, from your kitchen all the way to the circuits inside your phone. So to get us started, just take a look at these things on the screen. We've got a camera lens, a car part, an air purifier, and a face mask. I mean, they seem totally random, right? But believe it or not, they all share one single fundamental job. Any guesses what that might be? If you guessed that they all filter something out, you nailed it. First up, camera filters. A photographer might screw one of these onto their lens to block out, say, harsh UV light to get a really crisp landscape shot. They're literally filtering the light itself. Okay, how about this thing? If you've ever been under the hood of a car, you know this is an oil filter. Its whole job is to catch all the tiny, nasty bits of metal and gunk that can wreck an engine. It lets the clean oil through, but it stops the bad stuff. It's filtering your car's lifeblood. And back inside the house, you've probably got one of these in an air purifier. It's constantly sucking in the air, pushing it through a superfine mesh, and trapping dust, pollen, you name it. And what comes out is cleaner, healthier air for you to breathe. And of course, one we're all a little too familiar with these days, the face mask. It's doing the exact same thing, just on a much more personal scale, trapping tiny particles and droplets from the air. So you see, from light waves to engine grime to the air itself, filtering is absolutely everywhere. So, how can all these different things be based on the same concept? Well, to really get it, all we have to do is take a quick trip to the kitchen. Think about this. You're baking a cake. You pour out the flour, but it's full of all these annoying clumps. What do? You grab a sifter. The fine, perfect flour falls right through the mesh, and all the unwanted lumps get left behind. That's it. Seriously, that is the core idea behind every single filter in the universe. It's just a tool to separate what you want from what you don't. So, if we were going to put a slightly more technical name on it, a filter is just a process that removes unwanted components from a signal. Now, signal might sound complicated, but it's not. In our kitchen, the signal is the flour, and the unwanted components are just the lumps. That simple idea is going to be the key to unlocking how this all works in the high-tech world. Okay, now this is where it gets really fun. We're going to take that super simple idea of a flour sifter and apply it to the invisible world of electronics, where we're not filtering physical things, but stuff like radio waves and audio signals. Just look at this comparison. On the left are familiar lumpy flour. On the right, that jagged, chaotic mess, that's what a noisy electronic signal looks like. To your phone or your stereo, that electronic noise is just as unwanted as the lumps are on your cake batter. The goal is exactly the same. Get rid of it. But how do you sift something you can't see? You can't use a physical mesh. Well, the secret is that electronic filters sort things by a totally different rule. They don't care about size. They care about frequency. The easiest way to think about frequency is like the pitch of a sound, from a deep, low bass rumble all the way up to a high-pitched whistle. So, if frequency is our new rule, how do we use it? Well, it turns out there are 4 main ways to do it. 4 basic flavors of electronic filters. And these 4 are the workhorses behind almost all of our modern tech. Let's break them down. First up, the low-pass filter. The name really says it all. It lets the low frequencies pass, and it blocks the high ones. You can think of it like a bouncer at a club who only lets short people in. If your frequency is low, you're good to go. If it's high, you're not getting in. And this graph shows it perfectly. See how on the left side where the frequency is low, the signal just sails right through. But as it gets higher, the filter clamps down and blocks it. The best real-world example is a subwoofer in a home theater system. Its only job is to play those deep, rumbling bass sounds, the low frequencies, from an explosion while it filters out all the dialogue and higher-pitched stuff. Okay, so what if you wanted to do the exact opposite? What if you only want the high notes to get through? Well, for that, you need a high-pass filter. No surprise here, it blocks the lows and lets the highs pass right on by. And again, you can see it in the graph. The low frequencies on the left are stopped cold, but as the pitch gets higher, the signal is allowed to pass. Sticking with our speaker example, this is the tweeter, that tiny little speaker that handles all the crisp high sounds, like cymbals crashing. It filters out the bass so it can focus on what it does best. But what if you don't want all the lows or all the highs? What if you want a very specific slice right out of the middle? For that, you need a bandpass filter. This is a much pickier bouncer. It's not looking for short or tall, it's looking for one exact height. I guarantee you've used this one 1,000 times. Every time you tune the radio in your car, you are using a bandpass filter. The air is flooded with dozens of radio stations, all at different frequencies. When you tune to, say, 101.1 FM, your radio creates a tiny little doorway just for that frequency, letting it through while blocking all the other stations. It's pretty amazing. And finally, we have the opposite of that radio tuner, the notch filter, which is sometimes called a band stop filter. This is for when you want to let everything through except for one very specific, annoying frequency you want to get rid of. This is an absolute lifesaver for audio engineers. You ever hear a faint, low-pitched hum coming from a speaker system? That's often electrical interference from power lines, and it hums at a very specific frequency, usually 60 Hz. An engineer can use a notch filter to target and just, poof, surgically remove that one frequency, cleaning up the audio without touching anything else. So these 4 filters are incredibly powerful tools. But the way we actually build them has gone through a huge revolution. The first electronic filters worked, but, well, they weren't exactly elegant. See, the original filters were built with components called inductors, and you can just think of an inductor as a big, heavy coil of wire. And they were a pain. They were bulky, they were expensive, and they were really sensitive to interference from other electronics. Just not a great solution. For technology to keep getting smaller and better, engineers knew they needed a smarter approach. And boy, did they find one. It's called an active filter. The absolute game changer was a tiny little microchip called an op-amp. These things are brilliant. You can wire them up in a clever way to perfectly mimic what those big, clunky inductors did, but without any of the problems. They're tiny, they're cheap, and they're super precise. This innovation is basically what lets us cram all this amazing filter technology into our phones. So we've gone all the way from sifting flour to sifting frequencies with microscopic circuits. The technology has changed like crazy, but the fundamental idea hasn't changed one bit. It's always about setting a rule to separate what you want from what you don't. And that kind of makes you wonder, right? Now that you know how it works, what other invisible signals, all the noise and distractions out there, what would you want to filter out of your world?